Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Backstory Genealogy Series sponsored by DNA Bargains. I'm your host, Paul Vogelsang, and this is episode number 207. As part of our Backstory Genealogy Series, joining us again today is one of our favorite guests, genealogy expert Thomas MacEntee. Thomas MacEntee is back with some excellent tips, advice, and first-hand expertise on the importance of who, what, when, and where you get your DNA testing done.
I think it's important in terms of not only family history, but we're getting more into the health aspect. People are more and more aware of DNA and health. So that's why I think it's important to me. I think it's important to the genealogy business as well.
That, of course, is our guest today, Thomas MacEntee. Thomas MacEntee, of course, is a well-known genealogy instructor, leader, author, and sought-after speaker on the subject of family history. Please join me in welcoming to the Not Old Better Show via internet phone, Thomas MacEntee. Thomas MacEntee, as always, it's such a pleasure to talk to you, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, well, this is an important time. You know, we're talking kind of mid-April. Coming up here, of course, is going to be National DNA Day, an important day in the industry, important to you for a lot of reasons. And so why don't you share with us the importance of National DNA Day, what it means to you?
Well, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to quirky holidays. I think you and I have discussed this. I mean, if it's Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day, I'm going to celebrate it. I think Animal Cracker Day is coming up soon. And, you know, it's just, it's kind of that fun trivia, nerdy kind of thing. But the thing is, it is really becoming important because National DNA Day, basically in 1952 in the science journal Nature, it was first published that DNA had been discovered by James Watson and Francis Crick. And so that, you know, basically fast forward to about 2003, and the Human Genome Project said, you know, why don't we set up a national day to raise awareness? Now, this was 15 years ago, so it's 15 years old coming up, April 25th. And I think it's important in terms of not only family history, but we're getting more into the health aspect. People are more and more aware of DNA and health. So that's why I think it's important to me. I think it's important to the genealogy business as well.
Yeah, quirky, kind of unusual, but special and important for all of those reasons that you suggest. And so let's go there now. Let's talk about some of the seriousness of this, because there are some important things to point out. For example, which DNA test do I take?
Exactly. And that's you know, if you look at the history of it, you know, basically there was only one test. Now there are multiple tests and multiple vendors. People, I can tell you, when I travel a lot, I'll tell people at the airport, they ask, what do you do? I said, I'm a professional genealogist. The first thing, Paul, is, does DNA really work? Is it true what I hear on TV and on the radio? So we know that the media is out there and people are aware of it, but there's still a lot of questions. So the best test that you want to take is what is called an autosomal DNA test. It's a basic test that all of the big five vendors sell. And that's what you want to do. Ancestry DNA is the big muscle in the industry. It's a very good test, I have to say. It's very well priced. But the other reason why I think it's popular, besides its marketing campaign, is they have the biggest number of users in their database. So the ethnicity matches are going to be a bit better in terms of, you know, where your ethnic makeup is from, and also matching with other people to find common ancestors.
And that's an important goal to have. You kind of need to determine what your goals are. Treat this very seriously. I like the phrase that you use. This is not some Ouija board. You know, I certainly remember those.
Yes, I do too. Yeah, the thing is, I know, but it's not a parlor game. That's what I wanted to point out. It's not like a magic 8-ball. It's not something you just, you know, you spend money on and then you don't use. That's what we were seeing for the past 2-3 years, is people would say, now what do I do with it? Or, Paul, they would think, oh, I know my ethnic breakdown. My family history is done. And no, it's not. If you notice the ancestry marketing lately, they're marketing Ancestry DNA, but to pair it with the historical document research. And so I think that's important. I think people are going to discover a lot more than just what the ethnic breakdown is. You want to discover your ancestors. What common traits do we have? Do I come from 500 years of sheep herders? Things like that. And so I think that we have to get beyond being a parlor game and treat it serious, because the industry, people are throwing serious money at this. I mean, over Black Friday, just that weekend, Ancestry sold 2 million DNA tests last November.
Wow.
I mean, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, one of the things that I always enjoy talking to you about with regard to this subject is just the level of detail you go to, the research, your expertise. And you make a really good point about saying, if it's if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You need to stay away from some of these tests that can prove ancestry in the Native American or Cherokee, Indian kind of ancestry, and those are important points to make here too. That use a little bit of caution, be judicious.
Exactly. The thing is, anytime that something becomes popular, there will always be opportunists that come in. I mean, this is the way our ancestors live. The snake oil man came around with the wagon and everything. And, back then we didn't have social media to say, hey, watch out, this guy was over in this county. He's on your way now, out your way now.
Mm-hmm.
But so the thing is, but still, even now, there are people that think that you can test for Cherokee ancestry through a DNA test, and it's not true. So my rule is, if the price is below $59 on a test, read the details and be very suspicious. Also, we're seeing a lot of this. We're seeing even some of the big 5 vendors are doing this, which I think is misleading. You go to Best Buy, you can buy a DNA test for $29, but guess what, Paul? That's only the saliva or swab collection. When you mail it in, then they want you to pay more money to get the results. So we're seeing that across the board, and you really have to understand what's going on. Read the terms of service, read the rules, know if you're going to get dinged with postage, shipping, things like that. So if it does come across, but then there are some legitimate, deals out there. Groupon has a great deal on family tree DNA, and they have an ongoing Groupon coupon, and that is legitimate. But also what you don't understand is you have to pay shipping. So just make sure it is definitely it's the wild, wild west in terms of DNA testing and purchasing on a personal level.
Hey, this is Paul. Now don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back with genealogy expert Thomas MacEntee with more of Thomas's excellent DNA testing guidance. And I hope you're enjoying today's show. Speaking of genealogy, as I mentioned, the Not Old Better Show Backstory series is proudly sponsored by DNA Bargains. All the Not Old Better Show audience know what a genealogy fan I am, and with National DNA Day upon us, April 25th, with more to come, by the way, I found DNA Bargains to have all the genealogy resources I need, especially with all the focus on new DNA tests and health-related privacy. As a matter of fact, check out Thomas MacEntee's latest free book, that's right, free, titled DNA Buying Guide, with a thorough, reputable rundown of the who, what, when, and where for all things DNA testing. That's DNAbargains.com. Check out DNAbargains.com for more details, and mention that you want to support the Not Old Better Show. Thank you. Well, we are with Thomas MacEntee. Thomas MacEntee is certainly an expert, absolutely, in all things genealogy. We're really wanting to emphasize this DNA Bargains website of Thomas MacEntee's. We're going to put links to a lot of this stuff, but let's shift gears for just a second to Thomas and talk about something a little bit more serious. We're on the heels of Mark Zuckerberg's testimony before Congress just within the last 10 days. Privacy is a big issue, and in particular, it's important within the realm of the DNA services. And so, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about privacy, because I know that's very important to you.
It is. It's very important to me. I think it should be important to everyone. First thing I want to point out, Paul, and you and I have discussed millennials before, and there is a big generation gap in terms of privacy. You have to understand where the millennials operate from. If something gives them convenience or insights or added value, they are willing to give up their privacy, and without even thinking about it. And so that differentiates it. I think I come from a generation towards the tail end of the baby boomers where I'm a little bit more critical and skeptical, and I will read the terms and conditions, the terms of service. I will read the privacy policy and things like that. Now, what can people know from your DNA data? Well, the thing is, the process with all the big five vendors, I want to reassure everyone, is very secure. I mean, it's password protected. You get an email. And that's one thing under the scams you should watch for, Paul. I am seeing some phishing emails out there saying your DNA results are in. So if you're waiting on a test, make sure the email lines up with the company that you bought it from. Go to the company's website and log in, and there should be a notice that your results are ready. But beyond that, I mean, this is from a legal standpoint. People are saying, well, can the police find out something using my DNA? And this is what a lot we hear in the media. We hear about this, but the truth is, I believe last year or 2016, Ancestry only had 8 requests from law enforcement to access DNA data. And out of that, I think Ancestry only honored 2 and turned over. What they're looking for are what are familial matches. So it doesn't mean that I committed a crime, but what if, they could find out and prove that my brother or a cousin committed a crime, So that's a reality. But the fact is, more and more states are actually, they're taking DNA the minute you're arrested. That's coming up in the courts. Why would someone take my DNA? Why would a law enforcement agency take my DNA if I'm only under arrest and I haven't been convicted? And some states say, well, then if you're not convicted, then we get rid of the data. Well, does that really happen? So I think it's good to be skeptical and to be hesitant about this. Also, on this other end is, what is Ancestry DNA and other companies? What are they doing with my DNA data? Are they selling it to third parties? Ancestry is selling the metadata to a firm called Calico. Now, they say metadata. Metadata says that, it's not going to say Paul Volozang on it or Thomas MacEntee on it, but they're looking for things like trends in terms of Tay-Sachs disease, sickle cell anemia, aging, etc. So they take all the data and put it together in a big database. And technically, it should not be traced back to an individual. But we know that this is happening. So if you look at the Facebook Cambridge Analytica thing, I mean, that was a third party, And so again, we're in a transitional time. There isn't a lot of there's the GINA law out there on the federal level, but there isn't. You're going to see more legislation, I think, coming down the pike in terms of DNA privacy.
Fascinating. Well, I think, too, you like to point out that this is a midterm election year, and so there could be, so jump right in.
Definitely, yeah. The thing is, candidates and legislators, they like to seem like they're responsive and reactive to what constituents want. But sometimes it's overkill. Very often, as we could see from the Facebook testimony, a lot of the senators didn't even know what Facebook was or didn't know the details of Twitter. So they're not coming from my standpoint or someone that uses DNA every day. So it's a Band-Aid approach. It makes them look like they're doing something, and they may clamp down too hard on it. And that's what, if it's clamped down too much, then you're not going to have adoptees being able to find birth parents or other families. You're not going to be able to do a lot of this matching, those great sentimental stories that you see on the news and read in the paper. I would hate to see those go away. So we need to be careful about how we approach the privacy issue in terms of legislation.
So finally, Thomas MacEntee, and by the way, thank you again for your time and for all of this important sharing of information. What can we expect from DNA bargains coming up here? What can we expect from genealogy bargains? Let's drum up a little business and interest around this.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you want to be smart with your dollars, and we are seeing some great sales already. I predict that one of the big five, and when I say the big five, that's 23andMe, Ancestry DNA, Family Tree DNA, MyHeritage DNA, and also Living DNA, which is out of the UK. Those are the big five reputable companies that do a combination of different types of tests. I think the lowest price point is we will see $59, which is a great deal, considering most of them go for $99 US right now. already Living DNA has dropped their price to $79. I want to say that Living DNA is a great test if you have British or Irish heritage, because you know what, Paul? Rather than just say that you're from Britain or Ireland, they break it down by regions in Britain, which is they're the only people doing that. And so that's a really important test. MyHeritage just announced that they're going to $69. Look for free shipping and look for bundles too. This is a tip I want to give listeners, Paul, is if you're planning a family reunion this summer, National DNA Day is the time to stock up on multiple tests because there will be incentives. If you buy 4, you get 1 free. If you buy 2, you get half price shipping. If you buy 3, you get free shipping. So if you really do want to do testing of other relatives or give them as gifts, Mother's Day is coming up, Father's Day, graduations. Summertime is a great time in terms of this test. And in terms of using it for gifts or using it for family reunions. So I think, and then the other aspect also, let's not forget, Paul, the educational aspect. Educate yourself. There are books out there, there are webinars, and those are all going to be discounted 50% or more, probably starting, this weekend and then through to the end of April.
We're going to put links to where you can find, of course, Thomas MacEntee and all of his resources, including the DNA buying guide, DNA testing scams, recent blog posts that I saw, Thomas, as well as how private are your DNA results. All of this stuff you'll find online at our website with links to Thomas MacEntee. But Thomas MacEntee, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Good. National DNA Day coming up on the 25th of April. Thanks, Thomas. My thanks to our guest today, Thomas MacEntee, who operates the DNA Bargains website with excellent resources, including Thomas MacEntee's new free ebook, The DNA Buying Guide. Please check it out at dnabargains.com in honor of National DNA Day, April 25th, with the latest blog post, National DNA Day 2018 forecast, hot, 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 and health warms over. It's excellent and chock-a-block full of up-to-the-minute bargains. Check out our website for a direct link. As usual, we'll post links there and to everything else. And also, as usual, my thanks to you, the listeners, for joining me today. Your time is valuable, and I'm grateful you're spending some of it with me. I'm always interested in feedback, and you can leave that at iTunes, Google Play, or send me email at info@notold-better.com. Check out our next show, another great one, as we talk about better. The Not Old Better Show. Thanks, everybody.